gentlemen, please welcome columnist, Sporting News, and Sports Illustrated, Adjunct Professor, Rutgers University School of Journalism, Mike McCarthy.
Hello, everybody. I'm really glad to moderate what should be a fantastic panel on the changing business of sports. Now, sports, as we all know, has never been more popular. Attendance is going through the roof. They're setting TV ratings. The highest rated show in prime time for the last 4 years has not been a scripted drama or a comedy. It's been NBC's Sunday Night Football. And as Abby Wambach noted earlier today, the U.S. women's team win over Japan was the single most watched soccer game ever in the U.S. for men or women. Why? Because sports is the ultimate reality TV. But the sports business is changing so fast that cracks are starting to show. Tom Brady, the NFL's most marketable player and the country's most popular sports, is being accused of cheating. And TV coverage has become good, maybe too good. It's getting harder and harder for teams to lure fans away from the couch and into stadiums and arenas. So how are the sports professionals changing their business models and how they approach these challenges? Let's ask the experts. On the far left, Casey Wasserman is chairman and CEO of Wasserman Media Group. His company represents athletes, brands, and properties all over the world. On my left, Christophe Charlier serves on the board of the Brooklyn Nets and Barclays Center. He led the acquisition of the Nets by Russian mogul Mikhail Prokhorov. To his left, Tucker KAIN serves as CFO of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Tucker handled due diligence on the $2 billion purchase of the Dodgers, the single most expensive team purchase in sports history. And last but not least, next to Tucker, Dan Schell is a vice president at Fox Sports. He handles the key relationship between Fox and the University of Southern California. Gentlemen, let's get the ball rolling. Tucker, let's start with something that's ripped right out of the headlines. We watched Cole Hamels throw a no-hitter yesterday. How long before he's in a Dodger uniform?
I wish I could tell you. Obviously, we have until Friday when the trade deadline comes and goes, but hopefully sooner than that. We'll see. Out of my area of expertise, but rooting hard for it.
Casey, we're sitting here in the entertainment capital of the world. Is sports an arm of entertainment, or is it in direct competition with entertainment?
Maybe neither. I think sports is entertainment, and entertainment, music, sports are all pieces of the media business. I think, without question, as you referenced earlier, in terms of popularity, but sports economically, from a popularity standpoint, and from a value standpoint, is no question the biggest part of the media business. And all you've seen in the last 10 years is the continued validation of that.
Christophe, what do you think?
Absolutely. I think if you look at it either from the fan's point of view, he's going to make a decision, or he or she's going to make a decision every day. Are they going to watch TV? Are they going to go to the theater? Are they going to go to the opera? Or are they going to watch sports? From the point of view of the arena, the Barclays Center, every given night we're going to have either a basketball game, a college basketball game, now NHL, or we're going to have a concert, or we're going to have a family show. And same thing for TV, right? So from the point of view of all of the different persons involved in entertainment, it is part of the industry because it's competing for the eyeballs and for the dollars.
Dan, you seem to have a foot in both worlds, sports and entertainment. I'd love to get your take.
Yeah, I think it's a part of entertainment. I think from an advertiser perspective, which is really more my area of expertise, it's sports, as we know, is the one thing that's DVR proof. People like to watch sports live, so I think sports is always going to have a great place. And you're right, it's competitive with entertainment, but it also is entertainment, and it's a form of entertainment that is pretty unique because people want to either be there at the game or they want to be involved, and they want to be involved in that experience.
Has the TV product gotten too good? When I interview teams and leagues, they say one of the things that we're facing is we can't get people off the couch anymore because they've got high-def TVs and 70-inch screens.
Yeah, I mean, Casey would know this better than me, but I think it's fun. It's a great point. I mean, at USC, they get the $20 million from Fox and ESPN, and they love that, but then they realize, wait a minute, we have to get people here. And getting people here is important. And Fox and ESPN they're going to pay $20 million for something. They're going to, for college football games, they're going to make that product pretty good. And the Dodgers have done a great job with the experience, maybe better than anybody, to get people there. And so Tucker could probably speak to that.
Yeah, and I think the home environment, the home experience is a part of the pie, right? It's a part of our relationship with our fans. And I think sports, I think as Casey alluded to earlier, has done an incredible job of monetizing that piece of it, right? I mean, that's become a major part of our business model of how we drive value through our franchises. But yeah, you got to continue to create that environment internally at the stadium. Dodger Stadium, in our case, is our focus. We want to bring people into the stadium, present an opportunity and experience that can rival that at home. It's hard, right? It's different. You can create environments, create moments, create unforgettable opportunities for people to interact with your team that you can't get at home sitting on the couch. So it's something we think a lot about, we talk about, but at the same time, as an industry, you need to make sure we continue to monetize to make sure we're not losing that engagement with our fan base.
Yeah, I mean, when we built the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, you said LA is the entertainment capital of the world. I would argue that, as a representative of New York today, and particularly Brooklyn. But, we used the term that you used before, competing against the couch, in everything we did at the Barclays Center. Whether it was the quality of the seats, the cup holders, the experience of, how many toilets there were. We kept adding more and more toilets because we knew that was an issue. In terms of the food that's served, in terms of music, one of the things that I did was to put a DJ booth in Brooklyn because I said, we're the capital of hip-hop, we need to have live music, not just, someone on an organ, but, real world-class music. So we've really, in every single decision that we made in building the Barclays Center, the idea was, how do we get people off the couch? And that was the term we used, how do we compete against the couch?
When I go to Barclays, it feels like a nightclub. It feels like a giant nightclub.
It does in every way, in terms of the colors, in terms of the textures and the materials, and we spent a lot of money maintaining it because it's carpeting. I don't know if you notice that on the main suite floors. We have art, right? We commissioned art to be in the arena. In some of the older teams that have established franchises, they put pictures of their history. Unfortunately, with the Nets, we haven't had a history where we can put too many pictures up yet. But we commission world-class art, and it's a nightclub, it's a lounge, it's a museum. It's a great place to go.
Casey, is this a U.S. challenge, or your clients in dealing with this all over the world?
Well, it's certainly a global issue. I know it's a common thing to say that sort of they compete with each other, and in theory they do, but the truth is the experiences are pretty different. One can't replace the other. The NFL essentially sells out every game. Maybe there's a few games out of their games that don't sell out. The reason they focus so much on making the TV property so valuable and so well produced and so engaging is, one, it's the golden goose, so it's where the majority of the revenue comes from. And two, in the NFL, it's about 96%. 96% of fans of the NFL will never see a game in person. So if you think about the audience you're speaking to and the value of that audience, you better focus on that TV product because that's where 96% of them are, and that's where most of your money's coming from. So I have a different perspective, which is not that you're trying to figure out how to get fans to the game. Someone who wants to come to a game isn't satisfied sitting at home and watching on TV. They're different. And the truth is, at Dodger Stadium, it's 50 some odd thousand seats, 55,000 seats, 50,000 seats. That's really 25,000 people plus one. I mean, in a city of 20 million people in Southern California, not that hard to find people. There are challenges, there are opportunities, but it's about the experience, and teams are having to work harder to create better experiences. I don't know that that's entirely based on how good the TV product is. I think that's, frankly, a lot of it has to do with the connectivity we all have. We don't have to go to a store and wait in line to buy things anymore. We don't have to check out of hotels. We don't have to check into hotels. We don't have to check into airlines. Sort of the convenience factor in everything we do in life has gotten so much better that going and standing in line for 15 minutes and missing an inning at a game is not acceptable for people anymore. Waiting an hour for a parking spot is not acceptable anymore. And so the teams have to work harder, but I'm not sure that's they're not working harder because the TV product's better. I would tell you, if you were doing things solely based on economics, you'd probably build a stadium with no seats in it and just make the best TV viewing place of all time, because that's where the dollars are.
Tucker, the Dodgers have led Major League Baseball in attendance the last 2 years. What are you doing different or unique?
Well, first of all, we got an incredible fan base. I agree with Casey with all that he said there. I think we continue to try to drive the experience to something that approximates what people experience in the rest of their life. We've been adding as much technology to the buildings we can, from Wi-Fi, connectivity throughout the stadium. We've gone down the path of iBeacons and all the things you've heard and kind of stadium technology to create an environment and experience that will give people an opportunity to interact with the building in more real time. We are one of those that have parking issues that we constantly are battling over and trying to, again, implement technology, whether it's RFID or NFC technology for more tap and go, contactless entry. But it's hard. Unlike the Nets with Barclays, which is this new arena that has all those bells and whistles, we're trying to retrofit an incredibly historic, and we wouldn't change it for anything, but trying to add those features and add that fan experience has been a big part of our push over the last 3 years since we've been here in LA.
Something that's become very hot in the last couple of years is so-called experiential marketing, where you offer fans the opportunity to go on the field and kick a field goal or stand in the locker room with players during the national anthem. Sometimes they use it as part of a rewards program. Dan, I know you talked a lot about experiential really being hot on college campuses. Can you weigh in on that?
Yeah, I mean, the college market's changed a lot. I mean, probably over the last decade, 10 years ago, advertisers probably didn't see college sports as a viable, sophisticated enough market to be in. And now it's very sophisticated and still growing. And a big part of, I think, where advertisers are finding advertisers can monetize is that experiential factor. We do a lot of it in the properties we work with at Fox, just trying to use that as part of the package. It's a college hits a certain demographic and a certain audience that cares a lot about the product. My wife doesn't know who a linebacker is, but she loves going to a USC football game. And
Right.
it's all the experience, but you can offer things like being on the field or a pregame tour or things of those sorts. It's a great part of the whole package.
Imagine how much fun she'd have a UCLA game.
That's true. just saying. That was good. Fight on.
Christophe, can you talk about some of the things you're doing in experiential?
Sure. Well, a lot of what we're doing, as well, is related to social media and IT, right? Because you can really get the fans involved by having, very active social media and letting the fans know what we're thinking in terms of player movements and in terms of, how the coaches are doing, how the young players are doing. Now we're building a practice facility and we're constantly updating the fan base on how that's going on. We were, as far as I know, the first team in any professional sports that allowed your app to have instant replay when you're at the arena. One of the things we realized is, now the new generation, even when they watch TV, they're looking at a second screen, right? And so we wanted to set up an experience when you're at the arena watching the game, you can have that second screen, and the second screen is, what's going on with the Nets. So those are very important. We do a lot of things, with community outreach and having the players go out to different parts of Brooklyn to libraries and schools and things like that. Some of those kids can then come to the games and they're in the high five line, and these all these things are very important.
Yeah. The second screen, that's a great point, is become huge at games. I mean, I watch games on TV for a living, and half of the fans I see in the audience are looking down at their mobile phones, or in the case of the Dallas Cowboys, they have this enormous screen hanging off the ceiling, and you literally see people in the front row looking up at the screen rather than looking down at the athlete making the catch or making the run or whatever. Teams and players started out as local sensations. Now everybody knows who LeBron James is. Casey, your teams and clients and your athletes, are they now global brands, and how do you manage that?
Well, through social media, they have global reach, but the majority of their relevance is definitely still local. But their reaches, I mean, there are athletes that transcend, no question, and social media has made it more possible. But to be fair, most athletes are still mostly relevant locally. Now, managing how athletes engage with social media obviously is a new complexity to our business. I believe that their reach and frequency on social media will, if not already, I would argue it is, but very shortly, be an obvious revenue opportunity for them. Because frankly, advertisers and brands, when they buy media, they want reach and frequency. They don't care whether it's a USC football game, a Nets game, or a Dodgers game, or Al Horford's social media reach. They want that reach, they want that connectivity, they want that authenticity, and athletes have a unique ability to provide that in a very targeted and specific way. And if you can aggregate a group of athletes, you can create an aggregated sense of value. On the second screen thing, I would frankly argue that I'm not sure. I think people look at it the wrong way. I would tell you that I think the phone is the first screen. And given that there's more cell phones than there are in the world about anything else, then it's only going to get more. I mean, I think the cell phone is the primary device for people and the primary screen.
If I can respond to that, I mean, one of the ways when we moved to Brooklyn, we had to think of a way to differentiate ourselves from the other teams. And one of the things concepts we developed is we wanted to be the NBA's global team. And what that means is, whenever the NBA organizes games in London, either preseason games or regular season games, or if they organize like the first African game, which will take place in South Africa on August 1st, our general manager and our coach are going to be there. And some of our players are going to go attend. We played in London against Toronto twice and against Atlanta. Our players are always going around the world. And that's actually something when we talk to players to come to Brooklyn, we actually use this. We say, listen, you can go to another team where you'll be a local entity. But if you come play for us, and we've been to China twice as well. If you come play for the Brooklyn Nets, you're going to be playing in front of a global audience because we're going to take you to London, we're going to take you to China. We brought the team to do a practice in Russia, and we're going to continue to do this because we see that having an international owner being a competitive advantage against the other teams.
Yeah. Tucker, Dan, the Dodgers and SC are such iconic brands. Talk about how you attract fans globally and how you create that relationship.
Yeah, well, we take a lot of cues from, quite frankly, other leagues like the NBA have done it really well. And in baseball, that's both a local team and an MLB initiative going forward is how do we increase our reach globally. It's such an incredible opportunity. The NBA, like I said, has really taken advantage of that. We've done things a couple of years ago. We went and played in Australia. Teams are playing around the world. Again, we don't have as much of a base internationally maybe as some other sports like basketball. Football is starting to get it. We're starting to get it where you get really strong footholds in other parts of the world. And that's really where we think we need to set the, kind of plant the seeds and let those grow over time and bring youth baseball around the world. And then at that point, let our stars kind of tell our story for us. Let the brand and the stars kind of show people what it means to be a Dodger fan. And obviously through social media and other ways we can deliver content uniquely that speaks to people is something we spend a lot of time on.
Yeah.
Try to win some football games is pretty important. Putting butts in the seat. Scheduling's big. I mean, USC's playing Alabama to start next season at Cowboy Stadium. Fans like that. And so, but winning helps.
Yeah. What's the number 2 sport in the United States right now? I mean, everybody knows the NFL is number 1, but there's been some debate about whether Major League Baseball is still number 2. Yeah, on the one hand, people would say it's the red-hot NBA, and some people would say if you combine college athletics together, college football, college baseball, that's really the number 2 sport. Tucker, you want to?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I mean, I would argue that college sports and baseball are a lot more localized than the NBA. So if you're talking about national TV ratings for the NBA Finals versus the World Series, I think they're naturally. It makes sense to me and baseball people that the NBA is going to do a little bit better. We get a lot of people talking about baseball and how old our fan base is who watch the World Series, but we have 162 games in 180 days, and it's hyper local. We have the city of LA is really kind of coalesce behind the Dodgers. There aren't a lot of people, I would argue, here watching, the Cincinnati Reds play on a random, Tuesday night. And so if the Dodgers, hopefully it doesn't happen very often, but are out of the World Series, that kind of, you lose some of that local base. So I don't know which one's number two. I think they're different. I think they both have a real incredible amount of merit. NBA is a little more star-focused. I'd argue that MLB is a little more local team-focused. And so it's just about how do you kind of manage around those dynamics, in my opinion. So, but I don't know. I couldn't call it. It kind of depends on what you're looking for, which is kind of nice.
And it depends on how you're measuring it. Christophe?
Yes.
Well, I think it's early to tell, in terms of in the U.S., it seems like the NBA is, continuing to grow and maybe the MLB is stagnating, but that moves. Things, tastes change and that may change. I think what Adam and before him David are also focusing on is making basketball the second international sport after soccer. And, they're making great strides on that. And NBA has an advantage over soccer in that they are really the only entity. In soccer, you've got many national leagues that are quite competitive. And here the NBA is a real chance to be the international league. And that's an exciting development. I know Adam is really excited about the opportunities there.
Casey, what do you think?
Well, I think empirically speaking, there's not even a question. It's college football. It's the second biggest sport in this country. You don't even have to include the other college sports. But if you're judging by TV ratings and attendance, kind of per game attendance, I think college football is clearly second.
Dan?
I agree with Casey. They're different. I think college is on the upswing. I think look out for soccer. Who knows what 10 years from now looks like? I think the one thing about soccer that I know is out of my area of expertise, but that Fox likes a lot is it's a 2-hour television window. The game starts and it ends 2 hours later, and that's probably a little bit attractive to this next generation. So I don't look at it as what's number two, but I look at it as different. College attracts a different demographic and a different fan base. But
yeah. Well, that's a perfect segue into predictions. 10 years from now, when we're sitting on this panel, what will have been the biggest change in sports?
Dan?
Probably in the U.S. in particular, probably the rise of soccer, I would think. The MLS is on an incredible, if you look at kind of the underlying fan metrics of the MLS, it's got a pretty incredible broad base. But in 10 years, it's hard to say. I think, sports kind of matures in its kind of way it delivers content to its fans. So if you could tell me what the next content delivery technology is in 10 years, that's probably going to have shaped what's happened. But it's a good question, something we challenge ourselves internally to think about, but it's hard to, wish we had the crystal ball.
Yeah. We have time for a couple of questions from the audience. Can't really see out there. But if you got a microphone, fire away.
Is this on?
Yes.
Hey, my name's Matt. I'm from the University of Georgia. Thank you guys for taking time out of your schedule to speak with us. I work in facilities, so I'm incredibly interested in what you guys have spoken about. 2 questions. What, if any, trends or developments in facilities in recent years has actually had a negative effect on fan experience? And second question, how do you feel the industry should respond to the necessity for environmentally conscious design and operations? Like LEED and all that.
Well, from a negative perspective, it's a good question. I think there is, some people could argue that as technology has advanced and more connectivity, it's pulled eyeballs away from what's going on in the field. I don't think that's necessarily negative to the fan experience. I think it's all been pretty accretive from what we've seen. And as it relates to being sustainable and leads, I think that's something that we as an industry have to focus on and have to do. I think it's part of being a good citizen locally in the U.S. We at the Dodgers believe we're a part of the LA community, and to not focus on that seems a little short-sighted, even if it's a little more expensive in the near term. So I'll let others jump in if they have an opinion on what the negative fan experience has been?
I mean, I would argue probably the biggest negative fan experience is ticket prices. I mean, it's a function of the environment. I get that. Just it's getting. I think you're getting close to a point where you can only raise your ticket prices so much. And I agree with Tucker. It's hard to be any kind of business operating in any kind of public space and not be environmentally responsible today.
Christophe?
Nothing much to add other than to say, when we were building Barclays Center, obviously, as Tucker mentioned, it was a lot easier because we were building from scratch. So our building is very modern and up to speed in terms of environmental standards. One of the things we did this summer is we added a grass roof to the Barclays Center, so it's even more environmentally friendly.
That's great.
Unfortunately, we're out of time. Please join me in a round of applause for a great panel.